Welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from fresh perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 282, Getting Support. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host. I'm here today in my home studio in Orlando, Florida. And friends, today is a beautiful, beautiful day. And I'm doing a shout out this morning to Los Angeles, California. It's pretty fun. California is such a big state with so much going on that I know there are listeners all over the state. But I wanted to especially mention LA. And I've had some family live there at times and old family friends there. So I really, it did my heart good to know there are listeners in LA. And I'll tell you, friends, City of Angels, sending blessings your way. And LA is such a big city and there's so much going on. Big prayers for you and just wishing you the best there. Thanks for being a part of the family here at the podcast channel, Experience of the Soul, and especially this show, The Authentic Spiritual Journey. So today is a special day. It is Monday, November 13th. And believe it or not, friends, we are at show 282, and the theme for today is Getting Support. That is the show title today, Getting Support. I feel so strongly about this show, and I'm so happy to talk about it because, friends, I want every single person to know you do not have to do this alone. You do not have to do this alone. And I believe so strongly in the power of community to help us, to support us, to lift us up. I also know community looks different today than it did even a few years ago. That for some of us, our communities are online, for some they're in person, and for some, all of the above. What my concern is that so many of us can tend to feel isolated. So many of us can tend to feel, a little passed over or lost. What is the word? It's almost anonymous in today's culture. Like I was thinking the other day, I was going into a doctor's appointment, no problem, just a checkup. And as I was preparing to go in, I got a text on my phone. The text was telling me to check in on my phone. In other words, I had to go through this series of questions and clicking boxes. And I thought, why am I doing this sitting out in the parking lot? And so I went to go in, and the first thing the person behind the desk, they did not say, "Hi, how are you? Thank you for being here today," or "We're happy to see you." They said, "Did you check in on your phone?" So it wasn't exactly the warm fuzzy I was going for, going into a doctor's office. That said, I realized at that moment we had a major culture shift. And of course, I've noticed things along the way, but it was like a greeting was no longer a part of this transaction. Like the transaction was really about and only about getting my info so that I could be seen, which quite frankly left me feeling a little like a number and not at all like a patient that was being cared for. Luckily, my normal doctors I go to regularly are fantastic. This was just kind of a one-off thing I have to do once a year. But it left me with a funny feeling that, that I as a person didn't matter. It was just about my data and my insurance, what was my problem. And so there was a disconnect. So I'm saying I wanted to do this show particularly because I can't be the only person that feels this way from time to time. And I think part of my job as your host on the show and in this ministry is to lift these things up so we can heal through this together. I'm not above needing to heal. I might get something a week or two before you, but we're in this together, friends. And sometimes our culture and the way it's changed is not, I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's good. And so what I'm trying to do is figure out, how do I live a healthy, happy, joy-filled, abundant life that is centered in God. How do I live my soul journey with peace, with joy, with love, with forgiveness, with being in the flow, when I live in a culture that everywhere I turn is about getting my information or selling me something. So I'm also seeing the suicide rates, seeming to go up every year. Either that or they're reported on more. I'm not sure which, but I know I've worked with a lot of people, adults and teens alike, who, regularly are contemplating taking their life. And I want you to know, friends, you don't have to do this alone. I will put a suicide hotline in the show notes to make sure there's always help for you. And if you're in, a recovery program and you're feeling lost and alone, go to a meeting or find a spiritual community or church that really, really works for you. Make sure that the place in which you find yourself, that you are aligning with places that support you, that support your body, that support your health, that support your mind, body, and spirit. This is so important. So important. I think one of the reasons we're seeing a rise in the culture of yoga and things like that is that some of these centers that are focusing on the body are also centers of connection and community for people. It's like, oh, here's a group of people with like minds who are gathering together to do a practice that's both physical and spiritual in nature. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I myself belong to a program that is in the martial arts. And one of the reasons I go is it is a community, and it's a community that I'm not in charge of. I get to simply participate in experience, right? So today's show, Getting Support, show 282, I can't believe it. Getting support is about getting the right support at the right time so that you can get support, affirmation for your good choices. And also, sometimes you need like a little feedback loop to ascertain if I'm doing the best and highest thing for myself at the moment. Sometimes this can be, difficult if we have a lot coming at us, or we're highly stressed, or there's a lot going on. It's very, very hard to do that sometimes if we're on our own and we're already feeling isolated. So what I want you to remember again today, you don't have to do this alone. As a matter of fact, getting support will affirm for you good choices and will help you ascertain what is best at any given moment. So it just knowing it's hard to get a clear view of your own behavior is helpful, because I think sometimes we're our own worst enemy when we're trying to grow and develop. And especially if we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, which seems to frankly be a part of life these days. So we really want to get the right kind of support so that not only are we being lifted, but we're also being held accountable. Many of you know I'm a big believer in therapeutic work, in journaling and those kind of exercises. And the reason is because it helps us see ourselves, it helps us see our tendencies, and often a therapist, a spiritual guide, somebody like myself who does coaching and spiritual counseling, that sometimes we can help you see what's going on, because we're looking at patterns, at archetypal patterns. We're looking at behaviors that have possibly been with you a long time, and they've been with you so long, you're not able to see them. So sometimes somebody looking from the outside in will really help you see some things you're doing very well, and to focus on those, and also help you stop doing things, right, that are not helping you move forward. As I'm saying all of this today, I want to keep repeating the idea you do not have to do this alone. That said, I want to be very clear. The right support for you at any given time is super important. The right support is not passive. So sometimes when we're seeking support on the journey, what we really want is somebody to agree with everything. Right? We want somebody to agree with everything and not hold us accountable, but real support holds us accountable for our behaviors, but it doesn't in a way that it's just filled with love and grace. And I was very recently the recipient of this with a teacher I'd worked with. I probably started working with 30 years ago. We just spoke, and she called me out of the blue, and it was so wonderful to hear from her. And she had been supporting me in consciousness, and I had just been doing some very deep spiritual work, some journaling, some meditative work, and I was really seeing a pattern. And I had reached out to her at one point and just said, "Thank you for the support." And then later she reached out. Anyway, enough said about that. But the call came at just the right time, and it was just full of love and grace for me and for my process. It's like as soon as I saw her name come up on my telephone, I smiled. And that's what the proper support should feel like. It should make you smile. It should make you breathe easier. It should make you feel at peace. So if you are already receiving this, awesome. If you're not, it might be time to simply consider what support is needed at this time. And let me describe what I mean. So it had been a little over a year ago that I was working with a kind of mentor. And I say a kind of mentor because I was working on very specifically learning to see patterns and translate my own dreams and give meaning and understanding to those dreams. One of the reasons I wanted to do that is so I could help my clients. But the other reason I wanted to do it is there kept being a repetitive theme in my dream state, and I didn't understand what it was. So, friends, even though I have training, I did training to become an archetypal pattern analyst, and I taking many, many courses on dream translation. Some people call it interpretation, but the way I learned is really called dream translation. And even though I'd done all that work, when I was trying to piece it together for myself, it was hard for me to separate my feelings and my emotions from the images I was seeing. I couldn't get an objective enough look. What was so beautiful is when I, was working with this teacher, she saw it from a completely different perspective. And it was like all of a sudden, what was fuzzy before our 50-minute session, after the session, was completely in focus. It was like, oh, yes, that's what that means. But on my own, it was hard to get there. And it was really interesting. I have a friend I was talking to the other day, and we have the same coach at the martial arts studio. And as I spoke to her, she's a trainer, and she was helping me with a couple of ideas on something. And we were talking about how even though in our work, I coach people, she trains people on the physical level, that even though we help others, we need coaches ourselves because we want to make sure we're growing. We want to make sure we're maturing. And so when I was working on that dream work, what I wanted to get back to saying is, like, the mentor helping me was amazing and exactly what I needed at that time. But after I got through that, I was really guided to move some of my energy, some of my finances into focusing on my physical body. Like that, it was what I was guided was really next for me. And I could tell you this journey into martial arts, into jujitsu, has been an incredible gift in my life. I've met amazing people. I am in much better shape. I'm feeling good. My blood work is good. And friends, as we age, boy, we start looking at that blood work in a different way, don't we? So what was proper support for me at one time, at another time was not the proper support. So how I know it's right for me is holding me accountable. How I know is right for me is it's filled with love and grace. How I know it's right for me is that I feel at peace, that I look forward to the connection with this mentor or teacher or counselor. And what I feel mostly is that it just feels good to have somebody support me on the journey and to know I'm not alone. This is so, so important. I said a few shows ago, my number one goal is to become conscious, to live from the center. This is my ultimate goal. To live from the center takes support, it takes feedback, it takes accountability, it takes responsibility for your actions, it takes self-awareness. All of these things become easier when you have the proper support. So choosing the right counsel can catapult your journey forward and give you so much peace. The wrong counsel can really send you down the wrong path. So, as you grow and develop on the journey, you start to really be able to discern who's the right teacher for you. You start to really be able to discern which direction is right for me at this time. And as you hear me say often, friends, if you listen to the show regularly, as you hear me say often, uh, you're going to be guided. You're going to be affirmed in one direction or the other as you're listening to your inner guidance, as you're asking the universe for support, as you are at peace, in these situations, you're going to know what's yours to do. Yeah, you're going to know what's yours to do. So as I'm talking about getting outer support, you can see that I'm also talking about an inner process. There's most definitely an inner process. And sometimes, I've learned this as well. Sometimes if you've been working with people a lot, you need to take a break and do inner work. So this is another important aspect to the journey, that sometimes the inner support that you receive from the heavenly realms is what you need to be doing. So sometimes you need to do work on your own. That's what I mean about the discernment piece, knowing what's right for you at any given moment. The support comes through the soul of you. The support comes to you, and you will be affirmed in what you're choosing. You will be affirmed in this. If you're new to this show and you say, well, I don't know about this discernment and inner guidance, you will. You will. That said, I think this is super important to lift up. If you're working with somebody who's not trying to give you your power back, but is trying to tell you what to do, that is not, that is not right. Any support that you're receiving should be about you embodying, you owning, you claiming, and living your own power, your own guidance, your own inner intuition and discernment. So I should say that if you're working with somebody that's guiding your journey in this, controlling manner, then it might be time to look for someone else. I feel like that's really important to say, because I've had people come to me over the years that felt overly guided by their counselor in a way that was unhealthy. They weren't being given their own power back. So having inner and outer support will affirm you in your chosen path. And so just choosing this wisely is what's important. One of the things I was talking to somebody about the other day is meetup groups. And I've never done a lot of meetup groups because I'm always quite busy with social gatherings, which is often through my work or through, travel or my son. I have a lot of social things that I do. But what I've noticed, if people are working from home a lot, and if they're alone or only have, a partner or no children, there's not a lot that gets them out and about in culture right now, especially if they're not drinking. So sometimes the support you need is simply being with a group of like-minded people. So seeking out, and I mentioned at the beginning, seeking out a spiritual community is really important. But it could be a simple meetup group where you go do an activity outside, or you go hiking or kayaking or jet skiing or boating, or, you simply hang out and drink coffee and read poetry, whatever your thing is. But getting support really means staying connected, right? And remembering that even though you're an individual, you are a part of a larger whole. The larger whole, of course, is not only your family or the community in which you live, but it's like all of humanity. You are an integral part of the larger whole. And the way our culture is moving, it's often hard to recognize that. As things become more automated, as everything is less personal, as you place your own order and clean up your own dishes, and out when you're at restaurants, and as you check into your doctor on a phone or a computer, it's just less and less connected. Now the introverts right now are laughing and saying, "Yes, we love this," and that's great. But the shadow side of it, of course, is it's easy to feel disconnected and isolated. And I don't want you to feel disconnected and isolated. I want you to feel supported. What I've learned is that a supported life is a happy life. I've also learned that no one but me can support me, meaning it is me who decides what support I need. It is me who will seek that out. It is me who will make the phone calls. It is me who will do the research. It is me who will pay for it. Now, as I say me, of course, God is my source. Of course, I'm seeking spiritual guidance all through this. I'm using the word me so much because what I'm saying is no one else can give me support if I don't get up and get it myself. So if I'm sitting at home saying nobody supports me and I'm not doing anything about it, that's on me. But if I'm feeling isolated, if I'm feeling stressed, if I'm feeling alone, and I say, you know what? I do not like this feeling. I'm going to figure out what I need. I'm going to start doing some research on getting the proper support. I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to do that. So this is what I mean. There's a great deal of activity that may need to happen. There's a great deal of cooperation that needs to happen between, your soul and the universe. There's an intention that needs to be set. There's an activity that must follow to set up what it is you want and need. This is pretty important to remember. As I'm saying, you don't have to do it alone. That getting support will affirm good choices. I'm going to quote the author of 4 T's to Prosperity, Stretton Smith. He said, you have to get up and get it yourself. Friends, the universe is always supporting us. I firmly believe that we are loved beyond our imagination, and that in every moment of every day, the universe is seeking to bless us. If this is true, if the universe is seeking to bless me, you know what I know? I know that if I'm not experiencing blessing, if I'm not experiencing connection, if I'm feeling unsupported, I'm the one that needs to shift, because God's will for me is good. God's will for me is good. As the scriptures say, it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So if there's any way I'm feeling unsupported, it's simply because either I am not open, or I am not aware, or I'm not doing what's mine to do to experience the love of God, the guidance, and the support from the whole universe. It may even help you as you get up in the morning. I know so many of you are, doing the morning practice of the morning pages and setting goals. And my hope is that in the morning, as you're doing that and setting your affirmations, if you feel you're needing support, start affirming it. I'm supported by myself. I'm supported by the universe. I'm supported by Jesus the Christ. I'm supported by God, that everything I do is supported. I am loved. I am supported. I am blessed. It is the Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom. I receive the support I need when and where I need it. I am loved. I am supported. I am blessed. This is my prayer for you, friend, that you know this. But you hear everything I'm saying is about us claiming, us garnering support for the work that we're here to do. We are here to be souls on a journey. We're here to grow, prosper, and evolve. We're here to know our connection with God and the universe. We're here to be a blessing, and our lives are to be blessed. To do that, we must get support. So my encouragement to you is that you don't have to do it alone. I also want you to remember to choose that support well. If you need help with that, you can always send me an email. I can jump on a discovery call with you. I'm happy to help you find the right support if I'm not the one to do it. Absolutely happy. There's also a suicide hotline to call. There's also Silent Unity for prayer to help you with clarity and guidance. I want you to know, friend, you're not alone and there is support for you. That said, choose your support well and remember the internal support that you yourself are going to seek your internal guidance. You yourself are going to move forward as you're guided. And then also you're going to cooperate with the universe itself, knowing what is yours to do, when and how to do it. And you're going to look around at the universe for signs, for symbols, for affirmation that you are doing the right thing at the right time, and that the support from the whole universe comes to you and through you. That the inner and outer support will most certainly affirm you and your path, and you most definitely will receive a blessing as you get more support for your journey. So, dear friend, you are not alone. There is support for you. You are loved. You are supported. You are blessed. I want to leave you with a few more affirmations and thoughts. It is the Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom. I am loved. I am safe. I am blessed. I am guided. I am uplifted. I am peace. The universe supports me 100%. I am guided to the right and perfect people at the right and perfect time for my right and perfect solution. God loves me. God adores me. I am capable. I am beautiful. I am holy. I am blessed. All things are working together for good for me. I receive all the support I need from all the right people. I call the right people to me to support me. My angels support me. God supports me. I support myself through good choices and good decisions. I am wise. I am loving. I am at peace. All is truly well with my soul. And so it is. Amen. Thank you again, dear friend, for joining us today. Know that we love you, we bless you, we support you, and we see all good things happening for you. Blessings on the journey.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2023, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.